Episode 8 opens with Vincenzo watching the tenants overthrow Ant Group's men, and shortly after, everyone gets thrown in jail. Vincenzo and Taec-yeon head to the police station to free them, thankfully producing video proof that Babel's side instigated the fight. Even though the whole fiasco doesn't go exactly as planned, the desired effect is achieved, since the news channels started showing up to cover the plaza and the weird characters that live in it. Jung Joon-woo continues to rage since they're losing at every turn. While he vents his anger on CEO Han and Miss Choi vents back, saying that she also is not used to losing and she is determined to fight now more than ever. Jung Joon-woo is impressed that her craziness just about matches his and tells her to keep that devilish spirit of hers burning. On Chairman Jun's side, he's also unleashing his anger on his staff because they keep failing to secure funding due to the recent bad press. He gets so worked up that he fires everyone at once and tells them to get out of his sight. Back in his car, he gleefully opens a package and turns out that the gun that he orders has finally arrived. What's this guy up to? He seems too dumb to be of any threat to anyone, but you can sense that there's something more lurking underneath. Before we move on from Chairman Jun, we see that he's finally punished the Ant Company by locking them in a freezer to freeze to death. Say what you will about these bad guys, but Ant Company seems to have good work culture since they stick together during the whole ordeal instead of turning on each other. The prisoner, Miss Oh's condition is deteriorating, so Taec-yeon and Vincenzo heads over to see her in the hospital. Taec-yeon talks about getting Miss Oh a stay of execution, and at the same time worries about how to find her next of kin. Peekaboo, he's right beside you. Miss Oh wakes up and expresses happiness to see Vincenzo again, but she refuses to accept any help from them, not wanting to burden them any further. For the first time, we see Vincenzo lose his cool, and he demands that she take her health seriously and storms out. Taec-yeon is surprised by this strange reaction, and we're left wondering when, if ever, Vincenzo will tell her that he is her son. On the other side, Miss Choi finally gets to work to beat Vincenzo. First problem they need to solve is the funding gap. She meets with Shinkwon Bank President Hwan and asks him to make a public show of providing funds to Babel. That way, other smaller banks will follow suit. Rather than saying that she asks him, we should say that she blackmails him with dirty secrets that she holds on him. President Hwan has no choice but to agree. The next day, Miss Oh's stay of execution was granted, and Taec-yeon is eager to go to the hospital to share the news with her. Vincenzo receives a phone call and steps out quickly. Turns out Mr. Cho found a way to get the gold out. And there it is again, the gold. Basically, they found out that the client whose biometric is needed to open the secret room also opened a museum somewhere, which also uses the same technology, basically his iris scan. So if they can get a copy of the iris scan from the museum, there's a high chance they can open the room as well. At the same time, a lot of other people also have their eyes on the gold, resulting in everyone acting shadier than they normally do. In another scene, President Hwan visits Miss Oh at the hospital. Wait, what's the connection there? Well, I'll tell you right now. He has heard about her stay of execution and is there to give her hush money on his mother's behalf so that she will not petition for a retrial. Why? Because his father is the one that sexually assaulted Miss Oh before she murdered him and went to prison. Taec-yeon arrives to see the interaction and President Hwang warns her not to get involved. Miss Oh suddenly turns full beast and attacks him, cursing him and his mother for letting her rot in jail. Back at the office, Taec-yeon sees the news of President Hwan announcing to fund Babel. So for one reason or another, she tells Vincenzo that they must stop the investment from Shinkwon Bank. On to our next scheme, and this one is nothing short of hilarious. They dig up dirt on President Hwan and learn about his violent dating history with men. He would often pursue men that he likes aggressively, and if things don't go his way, he would beat the crap out of them. All this is swept under the rug by his mother, but I bet this is also Miss Choi's blackmail material, and thus a plan is formed. Taec-yeon suggests that based on their research data, Vincenzo is exactly President Hwan's type, and therefore he should seduce him and manipulate him to do what they want. Upon hearing this, Vincenzo breaks down in tears because, well, President Hwang is probably not his type, but he can't deny that it's a great plan. Needless to say, the plan was a raging success. Is that a surprise to you guys? First, Vincenzo plans a fateful encounter with President Hwan at a racetrack, his favorite place. He literally rides in on a black steed and introduces himself as Taeho. Right away, President Hwan falls for him and arranges for a drink with him that night. They exchange business cards and Vincenzo pretends to not already know that he is the president of Shinkwon Bank. He tells President Hwang that they should not talk business in order to let his guard down. Well, if you don't talk about business, what do? You flirt, of course. So Vincenzo turns on his charm and seduces President Hwang, at the same time trying to get him drunk. Bad Vincenzo, not acting gentlemanly at all. Vincenzo asks President Hwang why he is a president so young, because that's so impressive. And a tipsy president tells him that his father is a creepy sleaze. Guess apples don't fall far from the tree, and he would constantly sexually harass female staff at home. One time, he tried to do that to the housekeeper, who refused him and pushed him a little too hard, and he died from the fall. He describes how his mother was secretly watching through the door and didn't call 911. If the ambulance came in time, his father wouldn't have died. His mother wanted to leave the bank herself and has now passed it on to him. Okay, this guy's life is pretty tragic. Behind every abuser is an abused, they say. Anyways, the seduction plan continues. On a nice sunny weekend, President Hwang invites Vincenzo to an amusement park. President Hwang is over the moon on this cute date with Vincenzo, holding his hand, pecking his cheek, hugging his waist, running into his arms when fake zombies attack. The happiness he feels only pales in comparison to the agony that Vincenzo feels. Meanwhile, Taec-yeon and Mr. Na follows them around the park and watches with glee. After a full day, Vincenzo finally gets to the point. His mood turns very serious, and President Hwang gets worried and asks him what's wrong. Vincenzo tells him that he saw on the news that President Hwang's bank will invest in a corrupt enterprise like Babel, and he's worried that his sweetheart may be involved in some shady business. Then he acts sad because he broke his own rule about discussing work and runs off saying that they can never see each other again. Well, what's more appealing than a guy who cares so much about you that he just can't stop himself? What's more thrilling than chasing after a guy who loves you but decided that he can't be with you? Nothing is more appealing. So President Hwang is even more determined to be with Vincenzo. On a rainy day, President Hwang stands outside of Vincenzo's office, heartbroken and waiting for Vincenzo, who refuses to see him. It's like a scene out of a cheesy old school drama, and true to the plotline, Vincenzo made him wait there for a whole day. Eventually, Vincenzo goes out to meet him, and President Hwang insists that Vincenzo can talk about work whenever he wants, and he will listen because he knows that Vincenzo has his interest at heart. I gotta say, I'm starting to ship this pair more than Vincenzo and Taec-yeon. Can we just keep them? We jump to the day of the contract signing between Babel and Shinkwon Bank. Miss Choi booked out an opera house for the signing ceremony in order to generate hype, but is annoyed to see Taec-yeon there as well. President Hwang sits in front of the cameras, hesitating to sign the contract in front of him. Flashbacks show Vincenzo telling him that if he cared about him, he would prove it with sincere action. Sensing that he needs a little extra motivation, Vincenzo pushes down his urge to vomit and types the words "I heart you, baby" on his phone and holds it up for President Hwang to see. That does the trick, and President Hwang announces that he will not be signing the contract to fund Babel because it's a corrupt company. Vincenzo and Taec-yeon get up to give a standing ovation, and you should have seen Jang Jung-woo's face. However, in this moment, President Hwang's mother appears on stage with her two corgis. Who does she think she is, the queen? She pushes her useless son aside and completes the signing ceremony as the chairwoman. We learn here that Miss Choi has finally learned her lesson from losing so much and has made a backup plan to bring in the mother in case President Hwang fails to do what they want. Feeling depressed for failing his love, President Hwang walks backstage. But it's not over. He's kidnapped by the Gunga Plaza residents, who puts him in a room and terrorized him by pretending to be zombies. Remember he's scared of zombies? No? Well, Vincenzo does. So, to embarrass Shinkwon Bank further, President Hwang gets released from the room and runs to Vincenzo for comfort. The police also show up with evidence of President Hwang's past wrongdoings and arrest him on the spot. The scene is pure chaos, and Miss Choi threatens Taec-yeon to lie low if she doesn't want to end up like her father. Oh no, she didn't. Taec-yeon's expression changes, and she asks the reporters to gather around them. She declares that she is the daughter of the late Tong Yu-chan, a lawyer who died in vain while fighting against Babel. She vows to expose every single corrupt deed that Babel committed, including its shady connection with the prosecutor's office. Mic drop. As Vincenzo and Taec-yeon walk away, they smile at each other, ready to face whatever ahead of them together. This episode was pretty entertaining given the shenanigans the team was up to. It's obvious that while Vincenzo was pretending to seduce President Hwang, Taec-yeon was also falling hard for his charm. And who wouldn't? And it's about time, since we're almost midway through the show, so if there's actually romance in the stars, let's get a move on. Do you guys want more Vincenzo and Taec-yeon romance? Or are you good with their semi-friendship, mostly partner-in-crime relationship? relationship. He also seems to be that Miss Oh either knows or is starting to realize that Vincenzo may be her son. The way she looks at him and talks to him kind of gives it away. Or is she just too ashamed to reunite with him because she abandoned him? Why did she do that, by the way? There must have been some extenuating circumstances. I hope the mystery gets revealed soon. And remember to subscribe so we can find out together in a future episode of Vincenzo. Thank you.